of the tools we use to help keep people accountable in our project groups. So first off, I'm just going to go into Sage Desktop and spend just a couple minutes here walking through what's available. When we look at Sage 300, it's a large application set that has multiple capabilities. And we call most of those modules, but project management for us is one of the modules that are available in Sage 300. And so in the center box here, I've got my tasks, I've got project management, and I can start to look through project management to determine what are the features and functions that I have within the project management application, and then what is it that I want it to do for me. And the idea with project management is it's just an extension of our job cost environment. We want to take cost accounting, we want to take commitment control, change order control, and move it out into the field and allow people that are closer to the work capture some of that information, still protect that information because it potentially is financial, and then be able to utilize all that data that's sitting in a large database now that's financial and operational, and then help people understand the data, what's out there, what's needed, status of information. So the most important thing to recognize is that the system is a cost accounting, but it also does allow us to look at things like document control. So within project management, we have an ability to do RFIs. We look at transmittals. We look at correspondence logs, drawing logs, meeting minutes. We do submittals, and then we also handle daily field reports. As one of the functions within project management is also an ability to develop custom logs. An end user or a client can develop up to 20 logs, and those logs are just ways of capturing data, entering it to the database, storing and associating information to that, and then also reporting off of it. So if you're out taking pictures and you wanted to log those photos, we'll have an ability to build a quick photo log where you can log the picture, the date, the time, the location, the orientation, and then attach the picture to the job. So later when we're looking through the job, I have access to anything that I've posted, but I also have an ability to start to look at that data in a different way, and we'll look at that in a minute. So we've got documentation that's important. We also can handle contract control within project management, and that's going to include revenue-oriented contracts. So the contracts I have with my client, I have commitments. Those commitments are subcontracts or purchase orders, and then we have a full ability to manage change requests. So change requests that are entered or captured, change requests that are combined for change orders, and then those commitments that are associated with those change requests are also driven. So within our change request tool, we can modify revenue, we can modify budget, we can modify commitment or subcontract costs, and we do that all within one simple environment. So at any point in time, we can see exactly where we stand with the job and how it moves forward throughout the system. We also handle an ability to do miscellaneous worksheets, and for us, that's the cost to complete, cost at completion. Anything that has to deal with field-oriented reporting, we have an ability to capture that data and use it in different types of reports we've got out there. And then we've also got SubContract Compliance, and we'll take a brief look at that. And the idea here is I'm capturing data in these two environments, and then I'm utilizing inquiries and reports to get data out of the system. So we've got hundreds of reports, and typically if I have a function in the software like an RFI, I also have inquiries and reports that are going to show me logs about that document, so we can help manage that as we go along. In this case, dunning letters and distribution lists and forms and logs that we're looking at. So everything that we try to do is give you a place to capture the data, and then a place to report or inquire on the data and make it in a simple format. So within this world, the beauty of this tool is I've got everything that I've got here. I actually have an ability to take any of the items I want off the tasks and then drag them over into user-defined groups and workflows. So I can, in this case, I've dragged over, I want to quick set up a job, I want to do RFIs, transmittals, change requests. And then once I drag everything over, put it in the order that I want, I close that, and now what I have on the left are a list of the tasks that are associated with my login. And then on the right, I have a home page that will show me data that I'm looking at from my position. So as we look at this, I've got a couple set up here. I've got one for a project manager, but also to give you an idea, I've got one from an accounts payable clerk or a property manager or subcontract compliance resource. And the idea is while I'm sitting in the software, if I click on one of these links, the software will open up that screen. So this is the screen to enter invoices. So as I do that, it'll just pull out the entry program that we've got. So if I want to come in and look at an RFI, whoops, sorry, I've got project management already open in the background, and I've got it loaded on one machine here. So I'm going to jump into the actual application and look at some of these as we go along. Before I get there, though, I do want to show you the home page. And the idea with the home page is that someone, a project manager, can log into our desktop and then get access to their job without actually being in the software. So how many times have you had a project manager say, I'm just looking for update information. I want to see what my cost is or my labor. I want to see my subcontract log, or I want to see insurance. What do we want to see? And the idea now is when I access a job from this component, I can show that this individual information about the job, in this case profit and cash flow and contracts and billing and cost control. So, simple data, but also give them the ability to drill down. So if I'm looking at my cost control and I want to see a more detailed breakdown, I just click on that link and it will take me to a report that will show me for each of my cost codes. What did I budget for the job? What changes do I have? What's my revised budget? What are my commitments? What are my costs? What's remaining? So this data is stored inside the software. We can show you insurance log. Now this is reading the subcontractors that we're working with and their insurance certificates. We can come out and look at a subcontract log. This is showing me all of the subs that are working but in a detail environment. In this case, it shows Kingston Plumbing has a committed purchase order subcontract, and it was for $88,000. We've got 2 change orders, or 2 changes, one deductive, one additive. They've sent us 2 invoices, and we've cut them 2 checks. So without bothering accounting, a field person can now start to come in and start to see their data, like what's going on with my RFIs, what's happening with my log there. So any of the data that we show you as we go forward, really you have the ability to access that, not only through reports, but also through inquiries. In that case, I'm going to actually go in a different way. I'm just going to jump into the module real quick, and I want to show you an inquiry. Inquiry is a different way of accessing the data. So if I'm a project person and I want to get detail, and I don't necessarily want to borrow or bother the accounting group, I can go into an inquiry. This would show me all my jobs, and then as I move across the screen, each of these columns is going to show me different information about the job. I can move forward and I can see what they've got here. I've got contract information, pending and approved changes. The beauty with the tools, once you figure out how to use it, we actually have an ability to modify these inquiries on the fly. So if we want to come in here and I say, I want to know what the status is of my job, I can show that I have a couple in progress. These are unstarted. Maybe if I've got closed or completed, those would show up there as well. And as we move, I can add columns to the screen so that I can build this spreadsheet any way that I want. And then the beauty of this is if you see something in the screen that you have an active interest about and I hit enter, it will drill down to that information. So I went from the contract summary to the schedule of values. And then now I'm reading my schedule of values with approved changes, revised, billed, my payments. So I'm pulling data based on where I'm drilling down on. So if we want to see maybe pending changes, this is showing me I've got pending changes are 1, 2, 3, 6, and 14. This one's been submitted. That's verbally okayed. I've got the potentials identified out here. I can show you how far they're overdue. And as we go column by column, it's going to allow me to look at different information. Here's my budget. There's my line items. I budgeted labor, material, equipment, sub for each of these activities. I can go look at my commitments. This is showing me every purchase order and subcontract that I've got outstanding. And if I have or want to see more information about this, at any point I have the same capabilities. I can say, show me what that concrete and paving was. Well, it's made up of multiple invoices, and those invoices, some of which we paid. And if I want to see the status of invoice 3207, I double-click on it anywhere. It'll take me out and show me that I cut a check 2448 that paid invoice 3207 on this vendor, vendor 1401, which is they had a commitment or subcontract number 2309. And then while we're in here, there's always things that people want to ask. So they may say, hey, I don't know who vendor 1401 is. And the beauty of this tool is I can just, if I understand databases a little bit, I can come out and say, well, let's go to the vendor and just ring over their name. So I know it's Northwest Concrete. I could also put in the contact and phone number, so I can work off of this inquiry as we go along. So I move along, and each one of these are taking me different places. Cost of completion, profit, billings, but it also has got an ability to get me to the project management side, the documents that we looked at, or the changes. So there's my RFIs. So everything now is associated in one single database, and I have access to that data, and I can put that data and take that data anywhere I want. The other option we have at this point is if I see I have a spreadsheet that I'm interested in, I want to take it with me, and maybe I'm going to go look at maybe my total budget, and I want to take this budget with me. I can click on our Excel button, and this system will now take everything that we've got on the screen. It'll go out, it'll open up Excel, and it'll pull all that information out for me. So it takes a second to get Excel started, but as I look down here at the bottom, you'll see that this is all the information that we're looking at. I can now get it into Excel, and in Excel I can do whatever I want with it. So if you think of a reporting environment, I can design the spreadsheets any way I want. I can drop those spreadsheets right into Excel. So you've got a unique ability to move the data from the screen to Excel, and then we've got an ability to look at this and drill down and change views. So if we want to look at views, think of the ability to include or exclude data. This is a way that I can now include or exclude data by using a view, and the views are available throughout the application. So inquiries are simple, easy ways to get data out of the system. The other idea is that I can get in here and actually start to run reports. So many of the views we were just looking at also relate back to jobs or reports. So in this case, I'm going to print a report up. This is a way to get the report to the screen. I looked at this very similar report when we were in the desktop, but the beauty of using a report writer, it's not necessarily tied heavily to the job. I can start to use tools out here to say, yeah, this is the subcontract log I want, but I really only want it for that subcontract, which is 01001-01. So I can close this now and say, let's start putting some ranges in here. So I can come out and go pick the subcontract I want. So now all it's showing me is the one subcontract I want. And if I were to say, hey, I'm having some issues with Kingston Plumbing, I'd really like to send this to them. Any of the reports that we have in the system, you have the ability to hit the send button. And then I can go out into my address book and find Kingston Plumbing, which they're here because they're a vendor that's working with us. And then I go to Kingston Plumbing and I say, okay, now in Kingston Plumbing I can tell I want to email this. The system has automatically turned that report into a PDF, and off it goes. So I can tie entry, I can tie anything that I want into output, and the output in this case was going to be a report that I was going to send to a vendor. As we go along, what you'll find, the ability to capture and store is very important to us, but also the ability to retrieve and send that data or manage with that data. So I'm going to use one example, and then I'm going to work over my way into some of the accountability tools we're looking at. I just want to look at an RFI that we have in the system. So I'm going to go in now, and I'm going to find an RFI. So this is my job. These are all my RFIs. And let's just say we want to look at this facing tile substitution. I need an easy way within project management tools to capture data, share data, and manage data. So in this case, we want our project staff, when they have questions, I need to have them go out and generate an RFI, or I need to have them capture an RFI. So in this case, for this job, I am actually sending an RFI to our design team. I'm talking about tile. I'm referencing the tile to an actual drawing that I have put in our drawing log. So now my reference is specific to the physical drawing that we've received, and inside those drawings we actually have the ability to monitor the drawing, the revision, and the sketch. So we're keeping and linking these, so now as we make references, we're utilizing a database that's stored inside the system. So I've got an issue. I need to know this information. This is who submitted it. This is the date I need it. And this is, I can start to keep track of where it came from, who sent it. But the beauty of this is I capture this information. I can actually come out here and say I want to go ahead and print it. We'll save changes, or we'll preview it. and the software will generate the RFI form for me in capturing the data that we put in. So there's who I'm sending it to. There's my request. This is what I need from you. The same as the report we just looked at a second ago is if I want to send this to the architect, I can hit the send button. And the software will go out now, and it will pick the resource that we're dealing with, and I can tell it to go to their email. What you didn't see in the background, though, is that it's turned the RFI into a PDF, but it also has attached any of the documents that maybe are associated with this RFI. So as an example, if we took a picture, and the picture is, actually, let me take that back, that's an email, but we took a picture, and the picture is something that's associated with the RFI, I can now take that picture and attach it to the RFI and send it. We've got different reports out here. We've got, in this case, I've got email, so I can attach emails to this RFI, send the RFI. And the beauty of this tool is once I've entered all this information in, I can print it, send it, I can send it through this. We can also transmit it very simply. So the idea with the transmittal and what happens within this tool is if we are going to physically send something, I may want to send a transmittal sheet with it. And in many cases, at most systems, that's 2 documents. I've got to go do the RFI, and then I have to do the transmittal. In our case, when I tell the software I want to do a transmittal, the software recognizes that it's being driven off of an existing RFI. So why wouldn't we just fill everything from the RFI? So now what I have is an RFI, and I have all the attachments, and I'm just generating a transmittal. The beauty of this is as I save this transmittal, it's logged now. So when we'll go in and look at the transmittal log in a minute, we'll see transmittal 39 is associated with RFI 5 and all of this information. So now I can print this, and the system will very quickly identify the transmittal letter that we need to generate. And that transmittal letter now has all the attachments that we have, including the RFI. So we can send this off for review, but I also have the same capability as to say, let's just not print it, let's send it. So the software generates the transmittal, it generates the RFI, and it attaches all of the documents that are associated with it. I pick the people I want to send it to, and off it goes. So you'll find a consistent approach with capture and sending. All of the data that we capture is in the database. So now I've got this information in here, and just so we can go prove this, I'm going to jump out to the transmittal log. I'm going to pick the job we were just looking at, and I'm going to come down, and it should have transmittal 39 that was generated at 7:15. So all of that information that we put in is now logged in different logs. I can go cross-reference it from different directions. From the job, I can go look at it from the RFI, I can look at it from the transmittal. And the one thing I wanted to point out here is that something automatically popped up on my screen, and it tells me that there's one task that's ready to run. And we're going to look at this in a second, but our My Assistant tool, I've asked it to monitor the RFI process, and anytime anybody generates RFIs, we may want to queue up a notification, or we want to run a notification, which we'll show you. But the thing here is that this automatically came to the screen just as a byproduct of me entering in the RFI. So any process that we may get into, RFIs, documents, contracts change requests, AP invoice entry, payroll, we are going to have an ability to start to monitor and notify on, and I'll show you how that works in a minute. The last thing I want to look at here is something that's fairly new. It's called a SubContract Compliance tool, and the idea is that there are compliance issues associated with managing projects, and we need to be able to monitor that data, capture that data, report off that data. But I also need it available in different areas, including payables. So there's a bunch of people that need this data. We're capturing it in the system, but it's also being fed from different areas. So the subcontract module, the vendor, insurance, invoices, payroll, there's a bunch of data that we may need for different types of jobs. And so as I've logged in here, I've actually selected a job, and I've selected a vendor that's working for me on this job. And what this will now let me do is the software will look at, in tab 1 is just going to show me all the lien waivers. So if we're generating lien waivers based on the distributions we're making to these vendors, the software is going to log all that information and provide me with an overview or a way to manage what's happening. So what I can show is vendor 100, on these subcontracts, we've generated multiple types, conditional, unconditional, partials, finals. We can look at the vendor level. So I've got them as a primary vendor, but I may have a lien that's a release that's generated to a secondary vendor as well. We've associated it to an invoice or different invoices that are coming in. So we've got invoices, we've got checks. This will show the bank account, the check we cut. It'll show me the amount that we put in there, and then information about have we received that back and do we need to override it. So we've got all that information that's being automatically fed from accounts payable. If we've got subs working for us or we have certified reporting that we need, we can start to look at the different vendors that we are providing certified reporting to us that we pass along to our government-oriented clients. We can look at insurance information. Insurance in Sage 300 can be at the contract level, but it also can be at the vendor level. So we want to know when we've got vendors that have insurance and if their insurance has expired or what the upcoming expiration date is. And then this system will let you look at both the commitment and the vendor. And then if there's other things we want to track, we call it miscellaneous. So we can have things about the job we want to track, or there's things about the vendor that we want to track. In this case, on the job, I'm looking at drug tests and punch lists and documents. And in the vendor, I may be looking at something as well. So this tool is allowing me to capture or read data from all the modules that are associated with this job and this vendor. We provide a set of reports that are also going to let you look with that. So if I've got compliance reports, I can get snapshots of the compliance from a subcontract perspective or from the job perspective or from the vendor's perspective. And it's as simple as telling software you want to run this. In this case, I'm going to put in the vendor. We just looked at vendor 100. I can look at one job or all jobs. So I'm just going to preview this. The software now is running through all of the transactions that are associated with compliance and associating with that vendor. So for this vendor, I quickly can look to see, hey, A1 Electric, there's the insurance. We got some proof required, and what's the status and what the expiration date is. And then by job, do we have miscellaneous items? Do we have issues on lien waivers? And all of this is now available, in this case, in a 7-page report that's showing me job by job what the status is of this vendor. Now, that in and of itself is great. We've got an ability to pull this data. We've got an ability to report this data. But where we get into the accountability component that becomes interesting is when we utilize an application called My Assistant. And the idea is there's data that's populated inside the Sage 300 database. And that data is important to different people in the organization, and they may be interested in it for different reasons. So what we've given you the ability to do is actually work through My Assistant to work with one of the couple hundred predefined notifications or to develop your own notifications. And the notifications are driven around the modules that we have on the system. So these are the modules I'm working with in this setup. And these are some of the notifications that I may have turned on or off. And so the idea is as I look at something like accounts payable, what are the things that are important to me? What are the things I want the software to look for? So if you think of your day, are there things you forget? Are there things you want the software to understand? Are there things that are red flags for you? So are there things that we want the software to look for? And then if there are, we can turn on a warning, tell the system what to look for, when to look for it, and then what to do if they find it. So in this case, I'm just looking at accounts payable. So we've got dozens of warnings about invoices. So I've got invoices that's missing a PO or subcontract. So we have some companies who say everything that we purchase has to be a PO or a contract, a subcontract. So if I have an invoice and it goes in and it's plugged against the job and it isn't associated with the PO or subcontract, someone in the organization may get a warning that just says this has happened. It may be fine, but it may be something that we're worried about. We can just go through different areas and saying, I'm looking for open commitments that have not been invoiced this month. So the idea there is I have subcontractors, and subcontractors are working for me. They should be sending me invoices at least monthly. So if I can tell the software to look at all my subcontracts, and if we have any that have not been invoiced in the last 30 days, I want you to notify the project manager so they have the ability to look at it. I'm not going to walk through all of these, but I do have one in project management I want to look at. The idea here is a couple. One, I may have RFIs. We looked at an RFI. I may tell the system that I want to know when I have an RFI that hasn't been returned in 5 days. The idea there, I send an RFI to the architect or the construction management rep. I've asked for a response within 5 days. If I send it in on the 1st, when it gets to the 6th, I need that response. And so now, currently with many systems, I've got to remember that it's a 6-day, and I've got to somehow go into Outlook, or I've got to go make a note or put something on my whiteboard so that I know what's happening. Within this software, I can tell it that after 5 days to notify me if that RFI has not been closed. So in this case, I went in and I generated one that said, show me all RFIs not returned in 5 days. And then I've also got one that says, show me all RFIs, and I'm going to request a response. Or I want to see all the RFIs that are answered in the last 3 days. And I'm going to activate this one just to show you how simple this process is. So I'm going to come through and say, I want to see all the RFIs that have been answered in the last three days. And then I hit the next, and this tool uses a wizard to walk you through this. So I'm going to say, I'm not going to run this on demand. I'm going to run it on schedule. And I'm going to run it daily. And I want to run it, maybe it's weekly. I want to run it on Monday and Wednesday and Friday. Or maybe I want to run it daily. Or more importantly, maybe I want to run it at the end of a task. So I can say, I'm worried about RFIs. I want to go to project management, and every time someone goes into an RFI, I want you to go look against my database. So we can start to tie things together. So as an example, if there's something about invoices, when I enter invoices at the end of the task, I can run a notification. At the end of payroll run, at the end of billing, at the end of subcontract control, at the end of compliance, we can tell the software what we need it to do. I'm just going to do this one on demand. I'm going to go next, and I'm going to say, all right, now that I've got this warning, what do I want to do with it? Well, I want to make it simple. I want to send an email to the project manager. And I'll say, okay, here. Actually, whoops, let me do that one more time, sorry. Let's say I want to do the project manager. And we'll say, we'll do the project manager to. We can say this is from. I can pick somebody else in the organization and any roles that are out here. I can blind copy these to different people in the organizations if we want. And then in here, I'm just dragging information from the database and saying, this is what we want. So you really have this ability to build a merge that says, you know, dear, and then I can come in here as well and say, I want to go and just say, let's do project manager, because that's the person that I want. And we'll come through and we can put the project manager there. And I'm just going to build a merge print and then pull that information in. I'm going to identify the fields that I want from the RFI. So within the RFI, I've got the job, the RFI, the subject, the date, the answer date, the cost impact. But also maybe I want to come down here and grab some different areas that are out here. Because now I want to see the required date, and I put the required date right there. And maybe I want to come in here and say, what's the schedule impact or the amount or what the answer is. So we build the grid for the notification. I also have the ability to come in here and tell the software that there's data in here that I want that I'm going to use, and I'm going to pull my answer right here. I'm going to tell the software that when someone gets this response, my notification, I may want them to capture information and then send it back to me via email. And if they send it back to me via email, while I'm in the email, I may want to write that data back into the Sage database. And that's by telling the system that this is, in fact, something that I want to be able to update. The system is now telling me, okay, when I see that in Outlook, I'm going to let you write it back in. So I go to the next, and then it asks me, do I want to include any reports? In this case, I'm going to include an RFI log so that person can see it. And then I say next. And I can tell the software that I want to do a separate email for each task, or I may want to incorporate all the tasks together in a day. And because maybe we are in Outlook, I may also want the person to be able to say, this is the project manager. I want you to put a notification or in their Outlook for follow-up. So we go along, and as we look at it, I say finish. The software is going to capture this, activate tasks. And as we go, what you'll find is it's now going to let me run this task. And I'll go ahead and finish. It's going to run this task, and it'll show me if I have any of those RFIs that have come in the last 3 days. So I don't have any RFIs that have come in the last 3 days. But I've now activated, and it will be available for me. So as we move along through here, I've got some of these activated, and I'll show you how it looks for us. As I go into Outlook now, and I go into my assistant, I've got different versions of this. So this is an example of Project Manager Daily Summary. I told project managers once a day we're going to send you an update, give you access to let you know which jobs had cost codes that went over budget, and which RFIs have not been returned in 5 days, and which change requests have been submitted but not approved. So you get an email, project manager looks at it, says, oh look, I got these jobs, this is over budget, that's over budget, that's over budget. These are the RFIs that are 5 days overdue. I know I need to act with these, and then these are also something simple that says change request submitted. So really, really simple way to get data. It can be broken down into a summary like that, but it can also give you the same information in a single email. I've got a couple here as an examples. I've got bank accounts. I want you to monitor the balances of specific bank accounts and let me know if it's above or below a certain threshold. We've also got an ability to look at things like this. This is a report that's showing me all of the vendors that I deal with and their insurance, the insurance that are expiring soon. So I can set this up to say, show me all the vendors that have insurance expiring in the next 30 days. So this will show me that, and that's great because it's proactively telling you what we're looking for. But I think more importantly, it would be easier if I could tell the software, don't just tell me that I've got a vendor who has insurance expiring. Go tell the vendor himself that we have insurance that's expiring. So the system will automatically generate a warning. It will send it outside of the company to A1 Electric, telling them that this policy is expiring on this date, and also then give me the ability to attach my insurance requirements. So the software in one fell swoop is notified me that I've got vendors insurance expiring. It's notified the vendor that the vendor has insurance expiring. It's notified them what my requirements are. And if we move this along, if I go to my communicator, I'll show you the final step that we can get to in that. So the big thing here is now delivering information quickly and simply and easily that we go along here. This can be inside the company, outside the company. It can be informational. We can use this to deliver reports. So if we've got project managers that have a set of reports that we want to deliver, I can come into my assistant and I can tell the software that I want to do report distribution. Send the customers reports, send them statements, send project managers their reports, send vendors status reports. If I schedule this, then you'll see these people getting reports delivered every Monday, something that we're maybe doing manually, but I am doing it now automatically, that we're getting that information in here. So one of the ones we looked at on the RFI, I actually sent one up here that said I wanted to look, I'm looking for a response. So I'm going to go ahead and open that and give you an idea what we're doing here. So let's take this and open it, give you an idea of how things work. So we'll say this is a project manager. We're looking at a condition saying I want to see certain of these RFIs. I'm scheduling this to run at the completion of my RFI task. And then I built an email that says, dear architect, dear owner's rep, on this date we sent you this RFI, and the RFI had a required date of this, and we'd like to see, in order to move forward, I need this, and blah, 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 and here's who it is. Here's my original question. There's the answer we're requesting. And then can you help us out, please? And then what we've done is we've linked this information back into Sage 300. So I've got the RFI status that's out there. I've also got the question that's out there, and I've got the answer that's out there. So now what happens is when we run this, it's going to include all this information. And then what we'll see is if I go in now to Outlook and I go to my communicator, what you'll find here is these are all of the warnings that I've got that have been set up for me. These are all my notifications. So I can just come in day in and day out and say, hey, you know what, I'm really interested in seeing what vendors I've got that are missing 1099 information. And then because this is an active link, I can tell the system, you know what, go refresh this list. And then the software goes out, it makes a call into Sage 300, and it now shows me the most current list of all the vendors I'm missing 1099 information, or show me all my commitments with expiring general liability. So I can actually come in and use this as a reporting tool to get data immediately pulled in for me as we go along. And so kind of the interesting component here is if we've got information like this where I've got, invoices, entered your jobs without an estimate. I can come in now and say, you know what I want to do is I want to take these 2 items and I want to actually forward them on to somebody to review these. So I can say, let's send these to Dennis Earnshaw, and then tell them I need a response of this date, and then I can say, hey, please review this. So then I send this off. It goes off in the outline, but what will happen is the system will actually take this one line item, it will start to schedule, and it will capture all the activity. So within my communicator, I can show you for each item any of the communication that comes in and out of my Outlook. So what did I send to Dennis? What did Dennis send to me? What am I working with? What do we have going on here? So now, as we go along, just as an example, I may have somebody, these are all the RFIs that I've got outstanding. So I've got this RFI, and it's got some issues at here. It shows that I sent this off to myself, and maybe I've got a response, and the response will come in, and it would log itself. And then once I have information that I want to change, I can actually come in here. I can open this environment, and it will show me now for this job, that description, that RFI. I can change from in here the status. I can say, you know what, this is approved as noted, and then if they've sent the response to me, it would actually be available in here. I could cut and paste it for the answer, or I could come in here and actually put the answer in and say, you know, please follow drawing A-1, and then put in whatever else we want. And then I just hit this button, and it now goes and takes the values that I've identified inside Outlook, and it writes them right back into Sage 300. So the turnaround for us is really driven pretty heavily around what have I sent out, and then what have I done within the system. So you've got all this information now that is sitting here, and it's in our database, but it's also in Outlook, and it's utilizing Outlook in many cases to start to play with the data. So think of it this way, is if you've got something and you've got a group of people and you're all in Outlook, and you may say, hey, I've got some issues in here, I need to resolve this. I can tell the system that I want to take this, and I want to take this, and take this, and I can forward these to somebody. I can set up a task for somebody. I can actually set up a meeting request for somebody, or I can go update it. And we're giving you now this tool or this component that is both monitoring data, it's monitoring requirements that we put in with the data, it's delivering data and formatted in whatever format we want, and then it's also allowing me to utilize this as a turnaround for the data. So this RFI was one example of sending out an RFI, having the system recognize the fact that the RFI is late, I have not received a response, sending a follow-up email to the resource, asking them for a response again. If they type the response on the email, when I open that email up, because it was initially generated out from within my communicator, my assistant, I can then cut and paste that answer and then write it directly back into Sage 300. So I'm utilizing now not multiple tools, but I'm utilizing Sage 300 as my engine, and then I'm utilizing my communicator in Outlook as the conduit to get data in and out of Sage 300. So it's kind of a unique tool. The applications are almost limitless. As we move through different players in the organization, we can utilize this tool. An example is payroll, employees. If you have an employee has information that's on their master file. So address, phone, fax, spouse, status, anything we need on that employee. Once a year I can have the software send out an email, had a nice little form that said, please update us if any of this information has changed. Employee goes in, says, oh, my address changed from this to that. I moved from this city to that city. They can type it in on the email, send it back. Goes back to the person who's responsible in payroll or HR. HR person then can open up that email response and then update from within that email Sage 300. So we can do that with vendors, customers, employees, jobs, subcontracts, purchase orders, anything that we see within the software, compliance, insurance, those things are all available, all accessed from Sage 300 as a driving record, and then utilizing my assistant, my communicator, to get information out for reporting purposes. So it's this type of environment. We we feel like we're giving you the ability and multiple visions into the software. Let's come to the desktop. Let's go to the main module if we need to get really heavily in there. Let's go into My Communicator. Let's start pulling the data, having it accessed from whatever direction we want, and sending the data back whatever direction we need. And now we've got multiple people in the organization keying off of data that's being stored inside a single database. So we're at about 11:50 now, so I wanted to do this and give us 5 or 10